We talked about how much Ketores to offer every single day. How much Ketores do they offer every single day? Maneh b'chol yom, right? Mishkal me'ah dinarim. Every day, Mishkal me'ah dinarim. Maneh is 100 dinars. And we said that's variously like 480 grams worth of what? Of incense. The incense comes in a powder. It's prepared by the temple functionaries, right? And we also said that you could even technically burn the Ketores in the place where the Mizbeach is supposed to stand. If the Mizbeach isn't there, so just do it on the floor. Is there such a way? Do we have a precedent of burning the Ketores directly on the floor? And the answer is yes. Isn't that what the Kohen Gadol does in Yom Kippur? He just sticks the fire pan of coals directly on the floor of the Holy of Holies and puts the incense in there. Well, the third parak of Temidin UMusafin, right? Isn't that what the Kohen Gadol does in Yom Kippur? You have to turn the pages to get there. You're just in the inside cover. Temidin UMusafin. You want me to open it for you? Oh, well, give me. I'll open it for you. It's confusing how he did this here. Sometimes the table of contents is right at the beginning for all the different books.
UMusafin, what parak?
Well,
which parak?
Third parak.
Yeah,
He talks about incense. Yeah.
Which halacha?
We're going to start. I'm just reviewing the second halacha. We're going to the third halacha. Okay. Here you go. Gimel. The Kohen Gadol, for him, there is no altar in the Holy of Holies. So where is he going to place the coals and the incense? On the floor. Okay. Right in the pan itself. Okay? There's a lot of precedent for using the floor directly as the place of the korban. When they built the temple, the Mishkan, it's actually told how high to build the altar, right? And by the way, it says 3 amos, but then Chazal say it was actually 10 amos tall. And the Rambam says, well, 3 amos is a minimum. If you build a mizbeach for God, it should have 3 amos of height. But technically speaking, in the times of the Avos, how tall was a mizbeach? Did Avraham Avinu have a shiur mizbeach? Maybe the mizbeach was just like a few inches off the ground. Okay. Or sometimes you could just build a pile of wood, without a mizbeach. Sometimes they make a burnt offering to God without a mizbeach. It seems that making a mizbeach or a matzeva on which to burn the wood and the offering was a normal thing. But I would imagine that sometimes they just burnt directly on the ground. They just make the pyre directly on the ground. Okay. Did God require Bnei Noach to build a mizbeach? We saw before, Bnei Noach are allowed to build altars to God and offer sacrifice, burnt offerings to God wherever they want. What if he just builds a pile of wood? Can a goy build a matzeva? Technically speaking, yes. Goy has no issue matzeva. We saw that the Rambam doesn't exactly define matzeva like Rashi, but goyim don't have all these prohibitions like we do.
Wait. How does Rashi define matzeva again?
The traditional way. It means instead of an altar, it's one solid stone used as an altar.
Okay.
And the Rambam says matzeva isn't necessarily in place of an altar. Matzeva means like a bima.
Okay.
For gathering of worshiping idols. Okay. So, or just burn on the Evan Moskis, whatever it is. Before the Torah was given, there was a lot more we could do as Bnei Noach. And still, there's a lot more Bnei Noach can do. There's a lot less they can do, and there's a lot more they can do.
They can even take things that were used for Avodah Zarah and offer them to Hashem, I think, right?
Technically speaking, they might have not.
They don't have to Surhana of Avodah Zarah.
But then again, but once something is dedicated to Avodah Zarah, it's puzzle for sacrifice. But there's standards of what's puzzle. No, it's puzzle. It is inherently puzzle, maybe. Well, yeah, they'd have to be mevatel it somehow. It's just like the Avodah Zarah itself. They'd have to mevatel. So they'd have to somehow take away the dedication. Okay.
Well, that's more than we can do.
But
that's more we can't do.
Yeah, we can't do that. Okay. So there's things that they're less restricted in some ways and more restricted in other ways. Okay. Interesting. The types of korbanos, they're more restricted. The locations and who does and everything and who's involved, and perhaps even the species are less. We saw that before. What are Bnei Noach allowed to offer? Already Noach has the pure animals, right? So what are the pure animals for Noach? Different shots in Chazal. Are they restricted to bovine, sheep, goats, and two types of birds? Or maybe they could offer chickens and antelope also? Maybe they can even offer.
There's no precedent for it.
There is a precedent.
Even Noach, he has certain animals.
Tahor and Tamea, yeah. But maybe Noach's standards of behema are less specific. Like
they
antelope.
Have to be shechted, probably.
Yeah, they don't have shechita. Okay, so there's a lot of rules that the Bnei Noach do not have. So I'm saying perhaps even as we saw before, there are variable species for sacrifice or even more. There are Chacham say, but they can't offer pigs and non-kosher animals. That's beyond question. Okay, but you'd have a Havim, maybe yes, as long as it's not in Baal Moon. Okay. When it's time for Ketores, everybody's supposed to leave. Okay, you're not allowed to be in the Heichal. That means the structure of the temple, and also between the temple building and the Mizbeach. That means the west side of the altar. No one's supposed to be there. There shouldn't be anybody there until the person's done bringing Torahs. If they have to bring the type of chatas, whose a sin offering, whose blood is actually applied within the temple, which is a rare event. It happens every Yom Kippur and also for specific national sins, right? Also, everybody has to get away from this area. No one inside the temple, and no one between the altar and the temple. It says regarding Aaron, the high priest, on Yom Kippur, when he goes into the Holy and the Holy of Holies to do these special Yom Kippur services, like bring the Ketores, it says, no man shall be in the tent of meeting when Aaron goes in there to atone. And this is a general rule regarding all atonements that are in the Kodesh. What's the rule? No one around. Shelo yesh shamadam. So the rule that's explicit in Yom Kippur and only regarding Yom Kippur, or as we say in Yiddish, by Yom Kippur, is applied to every single day. You have the service, l'chaper b'kodesh, which is application of certain sacrificial blood in the Kodesh, or just the daily ketores twice a day. Everybody has to leave. Okay, good. So how do they do ketores every single day? What's the order of service? The person who won the 21st finger, he has the privilege of clearing the ashes from the previous day. What happened? How's ketores work? They put the coals on the altar, and then they put the incense on top of the coals, and it burns, and it gives a good smell. Eventually, the coals burn out, and you're just left with ashes, right? Like anything else that burns. It's mentioned in other places in the Mishnah. They select Kohanim, a pious, stick out a thumb, right? Stick out your fingers. And the Kohen has a magic number, and he starts counting fingers to see who gets what. And then that guy won, then the next person gets this privilege, and the next person gets that privilege. But there are a few Kohanim, so you could spread, many people will, get what to do. But you have a lot of Kohanim on duty. There's only so many things that Kohanim can do. Okay? There's a limit to how many privileges there are. And if there's not a lot of optional sacrifices or voluntary sacrifices that people brought that day, there's very little that a Kohen can do. Let's say it's Shabbos, regular Shabbos, there's 4 lambs to offer. And no other sacrifices. You don't bring anything else on Shabbos. So there are a lot of Kohanim there present. A lot of the Kohanim will have nothing to do.
They're shifts.
Yeah.
And they know when the shift is.
Yeah. No, what they do is the shift schedule different families. You have a big family. So this week is that family, right? And each day is a different subgroup of that family. Depends on who shows up. Some families are bigger. Some families are better attended. Things come up. Okay. So they could have, and their holidays when all the Kohanim show up. No, they just one family. It's supposed to be the entire family is supposed to come. So, well, Kohanim, they do only let a Kohanim of a certain age work. Okay. So it depends. There's a large fluctuation there. They talk about having to bring Kohanim from other groups to make up when they're lacking Kohanim. I'm just saying some days there are a lot of Kohanim present, not much to do. So they're Kohanim who, like we discussed at the beginning, have mamish nothing to do. Just stand around or wait. And some days there aren't enough Kohanim to go around. We had suggested that one of the things that the Kohanim would do on a difficult day, it's cold and rainy outside. So the 2 Kohanim walk out there with the lamb and slaughter it and find the blood. And then for the rest of the processing, they're already running back in and, warming themselves up while other Kohanim, replace them. Yeah. Warm up and then go back out again. Okay. So no one's supposed to be there. So it says the one who won this privilege of doing this goes in. Uchli kodesh biado. Okay, he has a kli kodesh biado. Utni hayashimo. Okay, it says that it's going to have the tni has. I wrote here 5/6 of a hin, which is approximately equal to 3 liters capacity. Okay, he has the tni. Where do you get this word tni? What does a tni sound like? Why is it called a tni? Tni. What?
Yeah.
No, it's with the tet.
Oh.
Okay, and it says tani hayashimo. Tani is similar to what happens. The biblical word is tene. What's a tene?
Basket.
A basket. How do you spell tene? Tet nun aleph. So tani was, aside from Mishneh Hebrew, takes silent aleph at the end of the shoresh and conflates them with silent hays and yuds, like likrot. Likro becomes likrot, and other examples. So the tene is like a tani. If tene would be spelled in the Bible with a yud at the end, it would be teni. Sometimes it's kelly and kli. Right between peti and petty, or carry and kri. What's the difference? Well, usually at the pausal form, it's mil-el, carry, or kelly. Well, it could be kri or
It could
or
be
kli.
like Kli Zahav versus Kelly.
Yes.
Or,
Yeah. So what happened here is you had a tene, and sometimes in other forms it could be tani. Okay, that's what I'm pointing out here, or a teni. Okay, so it's tani. Here they have it as tani, but I would imagine that other vowelizations have teni. What does makbili have it? Tani. Okay, tani. Utni ayashmo v'shel zahavai. It was made out of gold. Umachsi kabayim v'chetzi. It holds kabayim v'chetzi. Okay. Koren says it's 3.5 liters or so. I think that actually, according to Makbili, it should be closer to 3 liters, right? Does he mention that? Combined v'chetzi, 3 liters. It's 5/6 of a hin. Okay. Maniach atni ba'aretz lefanav. He puts the tni down on the ground in front of him, not necessarily eretz, because the temple's paved and the altar is made, it's made out of stone here. V'chofein ba'aretz. The altar is made out of gold. V'chofein biadav ha'efer va'pecham shebetochim mizbeach v'notein letoch hatni. And he brushes with his hand the ashes and the coals that are within the altar. Within the altar means on top of the altar. The altar is not hollow. The altar has no windows to it. The altar is just basically a table. The altar is actually quite low. It's about the height of one of these tables here, and it's not that wide. So he basically takes all this stuff, just dusts it off. And then he sweeps off the rest. Okay. And he sweeps it in, he pushes it in, and then sweeps out the rest, and he cleans off the altar. Does it say he does this? Is he using a broom? Is he using a broom or a brush of some sort? Apparently he's using his hand to put the ashes that's left into the tani. Okay? Okay? The person who has won the privilege of actually offering the incense, what does he do? Takes a kli full of Torah, and it's gadush. What does gadush mean? It's overflowing, but it's not liquid. It's a solid. So let's say this is the kli, so it has a little bit of a hill on top. Okay, that's gadush. It's not just machuk would mean what? You take something, go like that with a piece of wood or something. So it's exact. Gadush means piled up, right? Like we saw before, gadush is a haystack. Okay. Next, the chisui haylo, and it has a cover. Uvazech hayashmo. It was called a bazech. We said, where else do we have a bazech? Because called a bazech. Also, the frankincense that was put on the table with the showbread had 2 bazichin of frankincense, right? So this is a bazech, or in Latin they call it a ciborium or a kyborium in Old Latin. Cyborium. So they show a fancy one here. Machon Mikdash made that one over here, but technically speaking, it's the choice of the artisan how to make it. Okay. This fancy, what do you call it? A vessel for holding the Torahs, and has a cover. And next, v'notein habazech b'toch kli acher v'kaf hayashemo. He takes this bazech and puts it into the kaf. The kaf is the ladle or the shovel. That's its name. Umechaser hakaf b'vega katan. He covers this ladle with a small piece of cloth. And he holds the kaf, this ladle, in his hand. And he goes into the temple. V'imo acher, and he has some other kohen with him. The machtashel eish biado, and he has the fire pan with coals. Eish, in this case, the coals are called fire. Halachically, burning coals are called fire. Okay, it's wooden coals that he dug out. We mentioned before. He dug into the pyre on top of the outer altar, so he has this, I guess, this bronze fire pan full of coals, and the other fellow has this double layered kli with the incense in it. V'cheitzad choteh. How does he dig with this shovel? Why is the fire pan called a machta? Because he digs into the fire, into the coals. Person who won this privilege takes this machta, this coal shovel, and it's made out of silver. He goes to the top of the altar. Like the person doing the Truma Sedeshin, moves the coals this way and that way, clears a way into the center of the fire. And he takes from the coals that have been well consumed in the second pyre, not the first one. And then he comes off the altar and he takes from this metal fire shovel, okay, and he empties that into a golden one that's waiting on the floor of the temple. If some of the coals scattered about a kav or so, how much is a kav? We said a kav is about exact thing. Is it a liter or so? Right? Put it there. Confused myself before. We just said a kabaim v'chetzi is about what? 3 liters. Okay, so about 50% of this, so about 1.5 liters. So there's a certain amount of coals fall out on the floor. What do? A little bit less than this amount. He just sweeps them into the water channel that's running down the center of the Azara. Okay, they'll be taken away. They'll also be extinguished that way. Uvishabath can't really do that. He takes some other fancy kli called a psachter and he puts it over the coals. Well, I can't put out the coals, can't sweep them away. They're muktzah also. So just leave them there, cover them over. If somehow or other more than this threshold of coals was scattered on the floor of the temple, so he has to go back up to the altar and dig out some new coals. Get some new coals. He lost too many of them. What's the question?
A lot of aspects of the avodah are obviously if done if they weren't part of the avodah, they would be isurei doraita.
Yeah. Yeah, avodah.
This is clearly not considered that.
That's not an avodah. Yeah.
It's not an avodah.
Yeah, putting out the fire hazard is not an avodah.
Right. So then my question is, why is the Rambam saying this is the way to do it? This is what he does. If theoretically he could do it maybe in a different way, in a different method. It's not avodah, so it's not like, oh, this is the way you have to.
That's in the temple. When they had something they want to touch, they just said kofaleim kli. We're going to eventually sweep things into the Amma. By the way, what happens to burned out coals in the temple? We saw last week. They're just taken out to the Beis Hadeshin, right? So technically speaking, a lot of things could go into the Amma. Also, certain leftover blood, where's it put? Into the Amma. That's the way of taking things out of the temple. That's how you clean out the temple. And by the way, if they're going to rinse out the temple floor, what would they do? They're going to stop up that Amma and flood the temple. So if there's coals and stuff on the floor, they'd also get eventually taken away by that. The point here, as Rambam saying, is that on Shabbos immediately, he cannot take care of this the way he would. So you have to come up with a solution. And this is the solution they had. By the way, tuma. Sometimes they have a tuma. What do? You have something that's tummy. They discovered tuma in the temple. They have a way, there's a way to clean it out. There's a way to cover it with the cleat. Just cover it over, wait until later to deal with it. Right? Yeah. They thought of everything. Okay. Shlosha dvarim haya psachter mishamesh. They actually use a psachter for 3 different things. Kofino to al gechalim. You place it over gechalim when you can't extinguish the coals and sweep them away. Val sheretz b'Shabbos. See, sheretz also. See? You found the sheretz. You don't want to touch it. You have to move it. So what do? Why would you have a dead sheretz? Because this happens. I remember, I used to think about mice, but it turns out it's more about certain lizards. I told you the story. I went to some place for Shabbos a few weeks ago, and what I discovered in the Aron, where they kept their Sefer Torah. You weren't there? Okay, a sheretz. I opened up, I checked their Sefer Torah. I open it up. They actually had two Sefer Torah. Open up the Aron. There's a lizard there. I tried to get it out. That lizard ain't going anywhere. I come back on Shabbos morning, take out their old Sefer Torah. The lizard pokes itself out. He was right in the middle of the Sefer Torah in the roll. Yeah, it's pretty funny. What? Certain lizards are shrutzim, just like mice and certain rodents. No. So there are 8 different types, and lizards are on the list. Okay, so where would you get a sheretz in the temple? A dead sheretz is tameh. How would that end up in the temple? Sometimes it happened. Just last week, we were walking up to the Merkazi. There's a dead mouse in the way. A cat caught a mouse and just left it. Why do the cats eat the mice around this place? Because the dumpsters are so full of food that the cats don't need to eat the mice. But sometimes they just catch the mice and play with them and then kill them. So there was a dead mouse, and we found that we fixed the trisim, found dead lizards in there. What could happen is in the temple somehow lizard or mouse was deposited by a cat or a bird or something like that, right in the temple courtyard. And the Kohanim came in the morning. What'd they find? Dead lizard, right? So that's a problem. So they cover it with the psach. And he says here, and the third thing is Mordin Boed Adeshin Me'al Mizbeach. And they use the psach to take the extra ashes off the altar. What? Yeah, you hope you seal up the walls properly, though. There shouldn't be holes. Yeah. Yeah. Scorpions are not shrutzim, thank God, but they're much more dangerous. But yes, you get these types of things. You would, if you knew how many rodents and reptiles lived within the structure of your house, right? We don't see rats around, but they're in the sewers. You don't see mice around, but they're around. They're doing just fine. You can't separate yourselves from them. And also the lizards, they're all over the place. You don't even know where they are. So yeah, it's just a fact of life. You have to watch out for it. Okay, so we close this. Wish everybody a happy New Year, a successful Yom Kippur. May we live to see the restoration of the temple service already tomorrow, and the restoration of the entire service on Yom Kippur. Amen. So get ready, get used to it. Prepare yourselves, and also the destruction of the wicked speedily in our days. Amen. Be good. Shabbos.